Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, Non-Stop Talking with your girl here, Vivian Liu. I just filmed my June 2020 reading wrap up, so I obviously had to do June 2020 watching wrap up. I continued my Cinderella retelling marathon from last month, but I think I've reached my threshold and can't watch anymore. My sister didn't even join me this time around, which is sad. Thanks, Stace. In total, I completed 6 movies, 4 seasons of different Western shows, and 2 Chinese shows. And I watched some good stuff this month, so let's get discussing. One is Elle, Modern Cinderella Tale. This is about Elle, obviously, who works at her adoptive uncle's small independent music label. She wants to be a singer-songwriter, but stopped after the sudden death of her parents. Her uncle is trying to sign this popular pop singer, Ty Parker, and her meeting him and his goal of wanting to create real music reunite her ambition in being a singer-songwriter. Truthfully, this wasn't good, but it didn't suck. I had issues with the over-exaggerated acting, the weird flow, that monologue comes in and out whenever it wants, the cheesy wardrobe, and the confusing plot twist. The identity stuff, that was not necessary. But I think that the main girl was just very well casted and fit this role perfectly, and she is a pretty talented singer in her own right, and the songs were really good. They were bops. A lot of the things plot-wise didn't make sense. For example, Elle talks about not having any money to go to college, even though she and her uncle reside in this lavish looking mansion in LA, and then later on she decides to go to a private university, and I was like, wait, what? I thought you had no money. So there were just things like that were just really inconsistent, and you're just like, how did that happen? When did that happen? Huh? And one thing I didn't like about this movie was the constant flip-flopping that Elle would do. 1 minute she's like, I really want to be a singer-songwriter. She's like, oh, but I can't because of this, that. And she's like, oh, I dream of being a singer-songwriter. But so it was just it got a little annoying. But like I said, this wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all, and I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5. Next 2 is Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella, the 1965 version. In this one, Leslie Ann Warren really just shone. She was just shining in this, and I also really loved the fairy godmother. I found the old sets super endearing, and the wardrobe, particularly the ball gowns, they were just stunning. I wasn't a fan of the hairstyles and the headdresses, but that wasn't a big deal. So I really liked the Cinderella in this, and I really liked the fairy godmother in this. There were some songs and just parts that I wasn't a huge fan of that you don't even see in the second remake, but nonetheless the first remake was actually pretty good, and I ended up giving it a 3.6 out of 5. And then after that I went and watched Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella 1957. So this is the original one, and the amazing Julie Andrews is in this, and she does such a terrific job. This TV musical did something completely different back in its day, which was the whole concept of live musical. After watching this on YouTube in the black and white form, I went and watched a documentary of the filming of this, and it just gave me this newfound appreciation of what this Cinderella did. Truthfully, the 1957 and the 1965 versions are most like one another, and lots of people in the comments were saying this original OG one, 1957, is their favorite. But for me, I grew up on the 1997, the one with Brandy, and I thought that one was actually I didn't even know it was a remake. I thought it was like the original, and because that's the one I grew up with, I personally think like that's the best one. And yeah, if it wasn't for this random like Cinderella marathon that my sister and I started doing, I wouldn't have decided to rewatch the Brandy one and then find out that it was a remake, and then went and watched the first remake and then went and watched the original for the first time. And I think like watching it in that order, it kind of wasn't fair to this version with Julie Andrews, because obviously in the latter ones there is definitely an improvement in like sets, coloring, dresses, and just like things like that that add to the overall live musical experience. And I think like the black and white kind of did hinder this 1957 version, but I think it was like still like overall just really good. My two things was that I wasn't a huge fan of like the love confession, and I didn't really like the fairy godmother in this. I found her a little bit odd, but the casting for the step family in this OG one was on point for what this was trying to do during this time. It definitely deserves a 4, but for like my personal like entertainment wise, I gave 1965 a 3.6. I think this one will get a 3.5, and I think it deserves like brownie points for like what I said, what it was trying to do, but at this time I think I'll stick with that. So this one got a 3.5, then 3.6, and then 4. But yeah, so that's all the Cinderella stuff I saw in the past 2 months, and I'm gonna be taking a break from Cinderella. Number 4 is The Half of It. This story takes place in a small town where the shy, introverted, smart Chinese girl helps the school jock try to woo this girl that they both have feelings for secretly. The Half of It is this beautifully written and just really well paced coming of age film. I really enjoyed it. It was a little predictable and could have made a bigger emotional impact for me personally, but the story was super down to earth and very touching. There is quite a lot of cheating in this, which is something I don't agree with. However, the friendship that blossoms in this story is so sweet and just endearing, and yeah, like I said, there's like this very relatable quality to The Half of It that I think like everyone can enjoy. So go check it out. I gave it a 3.9 out of 5. Number 5 is The Farewell. Billy and her family are returning to China under the guise of attending a fake wedding in order to say goodbye to their dying grandmother, and everyone in the family is in on it, but the grandmother herself does not know. I really appreciated what The Farewell was trying to do, and I think what it achieved. After finishing watching this, I immediately wanted to play it for my father, just because I felt like there were so many scenes and aspects and things where he could definitely see himself in. It was very well directed, and I think the human aspects and the emotional parts came through like strong and well. I have a written review in which I go deeper as how I thought it related to me personally, which I will link down below. However, I felt that The Farewell was lacking. It was lacking a pull to me. Like I needed something else to pull me in, and I don't really know what it is or was or what I needed from it, but yeah, I just needed one more thing from it, and I think it would have been fully there for me. However, I thought it was still good and ended up giving it a 3.3 out of 5. Number 6 is Clueless, and I've talked about this before, but I just wanted to say I am so happy that Netflix brought this back to American audiences. So grateful. I have seen Clueless a few times. Obviously, this is another rewatch, and I love it every time. The story, friendship, relationship, humor, and of course, fashion is just A+. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's just such a pop culture staple, and I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5. Number 7 is Bones season 3. If you watch my other wrap-ups, you know that I'm slowly rewatching Bones yet again. I recommended it to a coworker, or me and another coworker recommended it to this coworker, and she's been watching it and telling us her thoughts on the show, and she actually really likes it, thank God, and is making my rewatch even more fun. It's this great show about anthropological forensic scientist who analyzes bones and this righteous FBI agent. The chemistry between them are off the charts, and it's super interesting watching everything develop from the beginning, knowing what the ending is going to be like. And I think one thing that was intriguing about season 3 as a person who was rewatching it was watching Angela and Hodgins like relationship, and I'm just like, wow, I never remembered Angela being this indecisive. But yeah, it's been great. Number 8 is Fringe season 3. I am continuing with my watch of Fringe, but honestly, I don't think season 3 is as exciting as the first 2 seasons. Season 3 goes into a direction I don't really want to see, and I'm not really looking forward. It's about like the two worlds starting to collide and the consequences following it. Anyways, I don't like the conflict between the two Olivias, and I'm really confused as to like Peter's role in all of this, but like while being confused, I also don't really care. I didn't like the flashbacks to the past this time around, but I think one thing the show does really well from seasons 1, 2, and now even in 3, one thing it does really well is definitely that human emotional aspect and connection that is like really great, and I think is the reason why I still will watch season 4. But it's definitely a slow process with season 4. But as for season 3, I gave it a 3.3 out of 5. Number 9 is Never Have I Ever. The show follows Devi, and this is the start of her sophomore year in high school after a really rough first year. I wasn't planning on watching this new Minikaling show, but then everyone was talking about it and everyone was raving about it, and I got curious. I ended up being highly entertained, like just really entertained. The main character in this can be a little bit too much at times, but I think the pacing and the overarching like plot was just so well written and so like slowly revealing itself to you as the audience. I personally am team Paxton HY. Don't hate me for that. I feel like the majority is the other guy. As I'm filming this now, I think a few days ago they announced that season 2 is going to happen, which is super duper awesome. I am highly anticipating it. I hope that it will be like as fun and entertaining as this first season. And the actor who plays Devi's dad, he's so handsome. And I ended up giving season 1 a 4.1 out of 5. Number 10 is Kim's Convenience season 1. This show is about a Korean Canadian family who owns a convenience store. We have the father, the mother, the estranged son, and the daughter who is studying photography. I was watching this show with my Korean American friend, and we both really enjoyed the first season. It's actually like quite relatable and funny. My favorite character is Appa. I just really I think his dialogue is great, and I really love like his relationship with Oma. The two of them together is just, oh, it's so sweet. I just really like love how real this family feels. My rating for this season is a little bit high, but I stand by it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Number 11 is The Love Equation 自我们甜甜的小美好. I want to do a video review for this, which is not coming soon, but hopefully soon-ish. So I don't want to go into too much detail here. It's a love story between two college students. The guy is studying forensics while the girl is majoring in Chinese, and she also is like writing a novel online. It's a mystery story, and they're just really cute. I think the main girl is like really adorable, and the main guy, he's like really straightforward about his feelings, and I really respect that. I like that. This is kind of a second chance romance, and I'm not really a big fan of that trope. Also, the love triangle in this, it gets really draggy. Honestly, they should have like cut it a little bit earlier. However, the female friendships in this was just like really solid and awesome. The 4 like dorm mates who like eventually become best friends, like that was just really fun to watch, and I really enjoyed that. Overall, I gave this 3.8 out of 5. In addition, I really liked that the main girl and one of her roommates were contestants on Produce 101 China. It's great to see that even though the 2 of them did not end up debuting in that group, that they're still doing well in the entertainment business. Good job. Number 12 is Me to Us Woman, the 乐队. That was a weird English name, honestly. Anyways, this is the first season of, I guess, kind of newish Chinese music reality competition show where singers and musicians sign up and then create a band to compete with other bands created specifically for this show. And I think the winner gets to like have like an official debut potentially. I was simply watching this for the coaches. I love all 3 of them and their music. As for the premise and the band music, I thought it was decent. It was like, the only thing was that they filmed this during COVID, and so after a while they didn't have a live audience, and I feel like band music without a live audience is very, it's not as fun, it's not as entertaining, you don't get as hype. But I mean, it was understandable. They needed to do what they needed to do. Later on, they do bring in like a judging squad, and there were some of them who had like really controversial opinions, and it sounded like they were only saying those things to bring in views, and I don't really like or respect that. Anyways, I was watching this with my dad, and I think my dad enjoyed it a little bit more than me. I just ended up giving it a 3 out of 5. Before I outro out of here, in May I actually forgot to talk about a movie. I skipped it, I'm sorry, but in May I watched Ratatouille, and it was so good. I've never seen it before, and I wasn't expecting to be like just really kind of blown away by how cute and adorable and inspiring and motivating it was. This like sweet and uplifting animated film about a mouse or a rat who wants to be a chef, and I think it was just really great. It was like a really precious quality to it. It was definitely formulaic, but I think it worked the formula really well, and I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5. Well, this wrap up is long enough, but before I go, just a few things. We still haven't gotten justice for Breonna Taylor, and we should also put Vanessa on that list, and so many others. And in that line of thought, I think that we should move forward with defunding the police, and at the same time we also need to move forward with holding ICE responsible for all the missing kids. That is freaking terrifying. Seriously. Outro time. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in my next video whenever that is. Bye! Of pretend, or